So I just finished season 2 of Babylon 5, and before I begin talking about it, I want to let everybody know that this is going to be spoiler filled for season 1. So if you're kind of checking out this review because maybe season 1 didn't exactly do it for you, maybe you're like, season 1 was okay, but you wanted to know if it gets better in season 2. While I did love season 1, I think this season 2 as a whole is better. Like, I think season 2 really amps up the show in a good way. So if you're looking for the recommendation of whether or not you should continue the show after season 1, I would say absolutely, because it's a great show. So basically, me talking about season 2 of Babylon 5, there's going to be tons of spoilers for season 2 and season 1. If you're commenting on this video, please do not spoil anything for beyond season 2, because I haven't gotten to season 3 through 5 or any of the movies besides The Gathering. So with that being said, let's talk about Babylon 5 Season 2. So the Season 2 is basically the coming of shadows. That is the whole theme. There is this war that is coming with this ancient race called the Shadows and the big mystery behind them. And Jakar is the one that is sort of on about this big mystery, and he's trying to warn everybody. But unfortunately, little does he know that Londo, one of the Centauri ambassador, has aligned himself with the Shadows to take back these planets that the Narn own that they feel like the Centauri should have. They used to belong to the Centauri. So there's this big war between the Centauri and the Narns. And this war between the Narns and the Centauri takes a lot of this season. It's really compelling. It was one of my favorite parts, maybe my second only to the Shadow stuff, because the Shadows are a big mystery along with the Vorlons, and there's just so much to talk about. And it's the reason I wanted to make vlogs like this about Babylon 5, kind of talking about each season, is because I don't really have anybody to watch this show with. So people that are maybe experiencing the show for the first time or have experienced the show in the past, that way I can kind of talk to them online, because I don't really have friends to watch this show with. So I guess this is sort of a cathartic thing for me. It's just a lot of fun. But, the heartbreaking thing is there is a hint that there could have been a friendship between Jakar and Londo. And I thought that'd be really compelling. And I think they could still go that direction. And I think that there will be I hope that there is a redemption arc for Londo. Because I know that he's done a lot of really terrible things, but I feel like if Goku and Vegeta could be the best of friends, then Jakar and Londo could find something as well. I think that'd be a really compelling thing to follow, especially, seeing where the show is going. And, the thing is with Londo is I didn't take him very seriously in the first season. I mean, he's kind of a joke character, and that was the thing with his race too, was that the Centauri had essentially fallen from grace, and they feel like they're not this great empire anymore. And I mean, with the hair and everything, they're kind of funny looking and hard to take seriously. But once the war starts with the Narns, Londo becomes a very serious character. Like, he's not the fun-loving, going gambling character that we know from season 1. And it's kind of hard to watch. And in a lot of ways, Jakar was set up as a villain in the first season, and I think that was a bit of a red herring. And you could see how Jakar could have been a villain had this war not happened. But it goes back to what Jakar was saying in the first season, that not everybody is what they appears to be. And that is another big theme throughout this season. And of course, there's the elephant in the room. There's a new captain, Captain Sheridan, and I'll discuss that a little bit later in the video, but Captain Sheridan takes over for Sinclair. Sinclair has gone off to the Minbari homeworld to be sort of the ambassador for Earth. And for me, I thought Sheridan was good. I think that Bruce Boxleiter, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is a really good actor, and I think that the studio wanted a captain that smiled more, and which is fine. It took me a while to warm up to him. At first I thought he was just fine, but I did end up liking him a little bit more by the end of the season. Once it felt like that the showrunners weren't trying to force this new character down our throats. But Another big change is by the end of season one, Delenn goes into this cocoon, and when she comes out, it turns out that she's like half human and half Minbari and has this long, beautiful hair. And her transformation is also a big theme throughout this season, where she feels alienated from her own people because I guess the Minbari weren't expecting her to make this change so soon. I guess they were hoping that this prophecy that Minbari souls are now being reborn as humans, they aren't exactly sold on it yet, and we're like hoping to officially go to, I guess, have her go through this transformation maybe later, but she like did it way too soon, and in their eyes anyway. And the humans kind of see her as a freak and sort of as an insult because of the war between the Minbari and the humans. But there are a lot of characters, like a lot of the main characters, that accept her change, and seeing everybody's reaction to it was a lot of fun and really compelling. I think that most of the main human characters, Garibaldi, Sheridan, Ivanova, all accepted that and were very helpful with her transition. And I'm anxious to see where that goes, like why she had to make this transformation in order to. I assume it has something to do with defeating the shadows, but we'll see. Because I think that the biggest theme is that all the races are going to have to team up together. And I think that is why the Shadows wanted to orchestrate this war between the Narn and the Centauri to, kind of cripple these two races and eventually have war spill out between the other races as well. Because it seems like the Centauri are getting a little bit greedy. By the end of season 2, they start attacking more of the other races. And I think eventually they're going to start attacking humans and perhaps Minbari too. And I'll be interested to see how the Vorlons react, because it seems like the Vorlons are just light years beyond everybody else. And boy, that reveal of Kosh at the end. I know I'm kind of going off the rails here, but wow. I loved it, and it was kind of what I expected at the same time, especially when Kosh is like, that he says that he'll be recognized by everybody. And when he saves Sheridan at the end of the season, and everybody sees like something different when they look at Kosh's real form, it's really compelling, because it's just like, did the Vorlons create the idea of religion, or they take advantage of these religions that were already in place, or is it like a little bit of a mix of both? It'll be really interesting to see where they go with that. And I did not expect them to go that far with Kosh this season. I thought maybe in season 3 we would get the big reveal of Kosh. I thought they'd drag that out a little bit longer, and I would have been fine with that too. Like, I didn't hate that they revealed it so early, but at the same time I would have been fine if they would have taken it a little bit longer too. But overall, I really loved this season. There's so much to talk about. I still love all the characters. I think that every character had a stronger story this season, especially Dr. Franklin. Dr. Franklin had a lot of really bad episodes in season 1, and I felt like his stories in this season were far and beyond a lot better, especially with the pandemic episode, which really hit close to home. I just love this show. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm already looking forward to watching it all over again. My mom and dad got me the DVD set, and I've been watching it on iTunes. Like, I bought it on iTunes last Black Friday. I bought the entire series for $20, which was a great deal. And then I'm gonna rewatch it on DVD to get the commentary and the behind the scenes stuff. And it's like, I don't want to pull out like season 3 and see the back and have there be like a big spoiler. But I'm already excited to revisit the show. I want to do more with Babylon 5. I just haven't decided what yet. And all right, so I'm gonna talk about the elephant in the room a little bit. Sinclair is gone, and I knew about this before watching the show, and I debated on whether or not to mention it in my season 1 vlog. But I was like, no, I'm gonna kind of not talk about it yet. But Michael O'Hara was dealing with a lot of psychosis and mental health issues at the time, and that wasn't released publicly. The showrunner helped him through this and told told the public that Michael O'Hara basically wanted to do other stuff like theater and other films and work on something else. When in reality, Michael O'Hara really did want to stay on for Babylon 5. And that is why he had to leave the show. And that's why we got this replacement with Sheridan. And there's a lot of times throughout this season where I was wondering what it would have been like having Sinclair around. And I actually do prefer Sinclair. And I know that's not unfair, not really fair to Sheridan, because it's not the actor's fault that he had to come in and replace this character that I really loved. I just love Sinclair because he's more reserved. Like there seems to be like more behind him, whereas like it's kind of like comparing Picard and Kirk. Sheridan is more like Kirk in that he smiles a lot more. He's more excitable. Yeah, he can be very serious at times, and he has a lot of really great moments. But Sinclair was more like Picard, where he's more reserved, and the enjoyable moments with him were suck out more because there was times where Sinclair could have fun, but at the same time, it's like the stuff that he went through during the war was hidden behind Michael O'Hara's acting. And I think that his acting was really good in the first season. Like I think he's a damn great actor, especially with everything that he went through throughout the first season. And I think that while some people accused him of being wooden, I thought that it was more reserved. And to touch more on what that process was like, I feel like my words can't put it into perspective, but rather I wanted to share the showrunner's J. Michael Straczynski's reveal on what happened with Michael O'Hara at the end of this video. And I think that it sends a very powerful message at what the human spirit can accomplish. And it's also really sad at the same time that what Michael O'Hara went through, but I find it also really inspiring, and I think that it's great that the fandom also not even knowing what he went through was really supportive of him at conventions, and finding out what he went through after his passing is really powerful and really sad. So Babylon 5 season 2, have you seen it? What did you think of it? What do you think of the show overall? Again, no spoilers, and I wanted to share this interview with JMS talking about Michael O'Hara. It is very sad, but at the same time, I think that is extremely powerful. And for fans that didn't know what Michael O'Hara went through, I hope that this can give you some closure, perhaps. So here it is.
This has never been discussed anywhere until this moment. Into the first year of working with Michael, I began to notice problems. Good guy, good actor, but there were things happening that I couldn't account for in behaviorally. And about halfway through, I asked him to come in, we talked, seemed fine, back to work. And end of the day, we talked to him again when he was more tired. And he began to manifest symptoms of psychosis, where he talked about looking for messages to him in the papers, that the FBI was following him, that he was getting secret messages in television programs. And I realized he was heading for a psychotic break. My psychology background came into play. And I didn't know what to do, because when most of the time he was fine, but every so often under stress out would come delusional behavior. What do I do? My first show, first season, if I tell Warners about this, they'll pull the plug. And I finally decided I'm going to tell Warners. I have to. I talked to Michael. I said, we need to get you. We don't have the power to force you to get medication, but I can stop this so you can get the care you need. He says, don't do it. Don't do it. I can't be responsible for the show shutting down, everyone losing their jobs. I can get through this. If you help me, I can get through this. And I said, if you really want a chance, I'll give you that chance. But we're going to assign someone to work with you and keep an eye on you. The moment the needle goes into the red, we're pulling the plug. Understand that. He said, I understand. I will work with you. We'll make this happen. And he held on by his fingernails for that season. I could see the strain it was taking on him, the toll it was taking, but he held on. And I was at any moment prepared to pull the trigger on this thing. We finished the season up, and I pulled him into the office. I said, you and I both know this is getting worse. You both know you're not going to make it to another season if things as the way they are. I'm going to move on from you as the commander of the station. Don't worry about it. Whatever your rent needs are for the while, I'll take care of it. Food, I got it covered. We will get you treatment. We will get you better. And I spent the next year or so working with him and to a degree with his family to get him the care that he needed while we brought on Sheridan to essay that role. And got him the proper meds. It was a long process of getting it worked out. In the next year, I said, can you come back to do a two-part? We kept the secret because they wanted to kill his career. And got him to a point where he could now come back and do a two-parter to close off that arc and introduce the notion of him being Valen. And we finished the episode, and as we're sitting in the office, I said, we're going to keep working with you and make this better, and I'll keep the secret to my grave. He says, you don't have to. He says, look, keep it to my grave. Because if anything ever happens to me, I want people to know that this is a problem, and here's why I left. Because people need to know that there's a problem in their family. If this can happen to an actor, a star of a show, a commander of a station, it can happen to anyone, and it's not a scandalous thing. It can be dealt with. So if anything ever happens to me, I want you to be free to talk about this. I said, well, it's not going to happen. You got to live all of us. So, yeah. And in the years that passed, he stayed on the meds. He got married. He had a kid. He started to get his acting career back together. For reasons unknown, he fell off the meds, and the fall was hard. We tried to keep in touch with him. He just disappeared off the grid and ended up in a halfway house under medication. And just this past year, passed away from a heart attack. And when I go to this convention in Phoenix in about a week and a half, I will be telling that story for the first time ever.
It's so tragic.
We've lost a number of cast members from the show, and that one was the most tragic because he fought so hard to make that work and to come back. And it's a terrible loss.